In the depths of silence, where no breath is heard, where light is not yet separated from darkness, and time stands still, there he appears. He is not called by name, for his name is not spoken by human lips. He is the hidden angel of death, the messenger of the boundary, the guardian of the transition between being and rest. Not as an enemy of life, but as its mirror, in which the truth of the beginning and the end is reflected. For every breath born in light already carries within itself the shadow of return. When the throne of the Most High moves, when the wheels of fire touch the space, this angel goes along. Wherever the Spirit went, there the wheels went, Ezekiel 1 verse 20. So it is said of the vision of glory. And there, in the movement of the throne, in the rustling of wings, and the sound of many waters, his presence is revealed not to the eye, but to the heart, which trembles before the invisible majesty. He comes not to take away, but to complete. His touch is not an end, but a fulfillment. When men see death, he sees the fulfillment of a plan. For the fire with which he touches the flesh does not burn, but purifies. And when the body becomes dust, the soul rises into the light, like a spark that returns to flame. He stands on the border, where the earthly is erased into the heavenly, and there the true presence is born. A rainbow unfurls above his wings, a sign of the covenant between the Creator and the creature, a memory of mercy in the midst of the thunder. And when he looks up, lightning flashes across the sky, like the first word of a new creation, and the thunder repeats it in the abyss. In this movement is the mystery of the throne of God. For the throne of the Most High does not stand still. It moves through eternity, surrounded by wheeled cherubim, whose sound is like a storm, and whose radiance is like the flame of brass. And where the throne passes, life awakens, even among the ashes. The hidden angel moves in this dream, not separately, but in unity with the breath of the Spirit. He is not the Lord of death, but the witness of the glory that is revealed through death. His silence is louder than thunder, for in it resounds the ineffable name that holds the world in balance. Thus begins a story not written with a pen, but drawn with fire. And when he steps into the world, the air changes, and at the sound of wings is heard, like the sound of water descending from the heavens. In it the light flashes, like a flame that never goes out. It seems to people that this is a sign of fear, but in reality it is mercy. For everyone who sees a shadow is reminded of his beginning, and everyone who hears the sound of his footsteps also hears the heart of God beating behind the curtain of time. His presence is not limited to a place. He is where blood is shed and where a child is born. He is in the smoke of the conflagration and in the light of the dawn. He stands by the bed of him who departs and by the cradle of him who comes. And all this is one movement, one arc of the rainbow, one breath of fire that is not quenched. For in him is the unity of all things, and none perishes, but only passes away. Death is not the end, but the turning of the wheel that turns under the throne. And when men try to name him, their words are dissolved in thunder. For no one can pronounce the name of him who stands next to the fire of glory. The ancient books spoke of him, but always in illusions, of an angel standing between earth and heaven, clothed with a cloud and a rainbow upon his head, and his face as it were the sun. Revelation 10 verse 1. He is not revealed, but hidden, for his essence is to be a witness to the silence after the lightning. And so at every end there is silence, and in silence there is presence. Where everything stops, he waits, not for judgment, but for a meeting. For he who created time placed him at the gate to remind us that even death is only one of the paths of God's movement. And when fire engulfs the world, when lightning strikes the earth, when the throne moves in its invisible circle, then he is revealed, the hidden angel of death, who brings not the end, but the beginning of a new light. In the 30th year, in the 4th month, on the 5th day, the heavens were opened over the banks of the river Chebar, and Ezekiel saw visions of God. It was not a dream, nor a dream, nor a voice of inspiration. It was a trembling presence that entered the bones, tearing the flesh apart, but not killing, but leaving it alive for a testimony. He saw what cannot be seen with the eyes. He heard a sound that cannot be heard with the ear. For the glory of the Lord drew near, and fire filled the space, and out of that fire appeared 4 living creatures, not of flesh, but of flame and tempest, of wings and wheels. Their appearance was like lightning that flashes without ceasing, and their movement was like a spirit that knows no obstacles. Wherever the spirit went, there they went, for the wheels went with them, and the glory did not stand still, but moved. Ezekiel 1 verse 20. There was no center in this vision, for everything revolved around the moving glory. The creatures had no backs, for their faces were turned in every direction, and their wings touched one another, forming a dome of presence. They did not speak, but the sound of their movement was like the voice of the Almighty, like the noise of an army, like the noise of many waters. Ezekiel 1 verse 24. In this noise there was anger and tenderness, fear and peace, for it was the voice of him who sits on the throne, though he had not yet revealed his face. Above these creatures, in the brightness, was a firmament like crystal, and above it the likeness of a throne, and upon the throne the likeness of a man, shining like amber, and out of the throne went fire. It was not a man. It was not an angel. It was the being who held time in his hand. It was the presence of God. And Ezekiel fell on his face, for when the glory of the Lord passes by, it breaks pride, purifies the heart, and leaves a man empty, only to be filled later. But with the glory was one of whom it is not spoken of directly, one who did not sit on the throne, but was in motion with the wheels, one who did not speak, but whose presence was felt in the very logic of the vision. For the wheels did not turn without purpose, and the wings were not without sound. And in the heart of this fire, in the heart of this roar, in the very center of the unspeakable, stood one whom we now call the hidden angel of death. He is not in the words of the prophet, but he is in the pauses between the words. He is in motion, for when the throne goes, so goes he who precedes it. He is not a cherub, not a creature with the face of a lion or an eagle, but a spirit between the wheels. And in every revolution, in every thunderous turn, he was a shadow holding on to the light. For as every prophet sees fire, but does not see the embers that kindle it, so Ezekiel saw glory, but did not see the one who brought it near. And when the rainbow appeared over the throne, as a sign of mercy, it was beside it, as a reminder of judgment. For mercy and judgment are not opposites. They are 2 sides of the same wheel. The throne did not stand. It walked, and wherever the glory passed, something burned, not flesh, but the old essence. And in this fire, which did not consume, but transformed, a new understanding was born. For everyone who saw the vision could not turn back, and everyone who heard the sound of wings touching each other also heard the approach of the end. There, in the vision, the angel of death did not carry a scythe. He carried a wheel, and in its center was an eye. He did not gather souls. He carried the throne. For death is not an action, but a movement, and movement is not a fall, but a transfer. Therefore, whoever looked at the wheels saw more than just a mechanism. He saw a symbol of a history that has no beginning or end, because it revolves around glory. 4 directions, 4 beings, 4 faces, and all in one spirit that goes where it wills. It was not a machine. It was an essence, truth in motion, a divine breath that burns but does not go out. But the greatest mystery is in the silence. For when the sound ceased, and the throne stood still, and the wheels ceased to turn, then came the echo. Then in the silence they heard the name that had not been spoken. For it is then that he comes, not as an end, but as a memory of the beginning, the one who is not seen, but who goes with every revolution of God's glory. And he was there, not before Ezekiel, not in description, not in words, but in the middle of the wheel, in the fire that came out of the throne. And this fire did not go out. On a night when kings were awake, when the seals were not yet opened, and time hid the breath in the sleeve of eternity. Daniel saw dreams. But these were not ordinary dreams, born of fatigue or fear. These were prophetic breakthroughs into the fabric of the invisible, into the depths of what covers the sky, when the Lord opens the curtain. He saw visions, and in those visions the sea boiled as under a storm, and beasts came out one after another, each as an image of an era, as the face of empires. But the essence was not in the beasts, but in what came after. For the prophet's eyes saw not chaos, but order that came from above, not wrath, but judgment that descended from heaven, like a fiery reality, stronger than all the shadows of the earth. I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Eternal One sat. His raiment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like pure wool. His throne was fiery flames, and his wheels burning fire. Daniel 7 verse 9. And thousands of thousands ministered to him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. It was a judgment, but not a judgment merely to condemn, but a judgment to reveal the truth. For when the throne of God descends in fire, when the flame pours from under the throne, then everything appears in its true light. And in that light was not only the face of the Father, but also the shadow that walked beside it, like a silent presence, like a gap between words, like a step behind glory. For fire is not merely a symbol of power. It is a witness of presence. And in that fire that proceeded from under the throne was one who is not named. One who did not sit, but stood. One whose work began not when the books were opened, but when the books were closed. For when the hand of God pronounces sentence, the hidden angel moves, not to execute, but to carry out, not to punish, but to pass. His throne is not a separate throne, but the movement of the wheels of the throne. He has no place, for his ministry is the way between the throne and the earth, between judgment and consequence. And Daniel saw something else. In the silence of the night, after the roar of the beasts, after the voice of the throne, I saw in the visions of the night, and behold, one like the Son of Man came down from heaven, and came to the Eternal One, and stood before him. Daniel 7 verse 13. This was not only a vision of the Messiah, not only a promise of the future king, but also an encounter in which light touches the boundary. For he who walked through fire, and he who is not named followed him. For glory does not come alone, and where the sun descends, there also stands he who will prepare the way, not John the Baptist, but the angel who accompanies the last breath of empires. The presence of the angel of death, not as an enemy of God, but as the bearer of his will, was read from the very logic of the vision. When the throne burns with fire, the wheels move, the judgment is opened, and the books are opened. This means that history reaches its turning point. And in that turning point, the angel of death becomes not a sword, but a sign. For he who has seen the throne cannot but see the shadow that follows it. For the movement of glory is always accompanied. And when the word comes from the mouth of the Most High, the wings spread out in silence. Everything in this vision was about movement. Thrones are placed, meaning they have been moved. Flames are poured, meaning there is a source that does not stop. Wheels are turned, meaning judgment is not dead, but alive. And in the midst of this movement, where glory touches history, the hidden angel reappears, not in the center of attention, but in the very structure of events. He is not in the description, but he is in the fire, he is in the flame, he is in the rhythm of the wings. His sound is a barely audible sigh between was and will be. For what is judgment, if not the moment of truth? And what is truth, if not light that cuts through the darkness? And what is light, if not fire? And if fire, then the presence of the one who stands and it goes with it, and opens the way for the next movement of the throne. Death in this context is not the end, but the turning of the wheel. For the same fire that burns purifies, and the same throne that judges bestows the kingdom. And therefore the hidden angel is at once a shadow and a harbinger, a silent witness and a mover. He is not in the book, because he is himself a book that is not written in words, but is revealed by the breath of the Spirit. So Daniel saw more than he was allowed. And though he fell with fear, and his countenance was changed. He remembered it all. For he who sees the throne and fire never sees the world as he did before. And he who hears the sound of wings touching each other hears also the silence between them. There in this silence stands an angel. He does not speak, but everything speaks of him. He is not shown, but everything leads to him. For death in the hands of God is not destructive, but holy. And he who bears it is not the end, but the completion, a sign that the throne is yet to come. In the camp, among the people who were traveling in the desert, when there was no temple yet, but only the tabernacle, fire already went before them. A pillar of fire by night, a pillar of cloud by day. And in that fire that burned but did not destroy was the glory of the Lord, invisible but terrible. When it descended, every man hid his face, and Moses alone went toward it, trembling. But he did not see the fullness, only the shadow of the glory, only the back of God, for no one could see the face and live. But even in that shadow, the presence of death was already hidden, not as a punishment, but as a limit that keeps the world in balance. When the glory filled the tabernacle, Moses could not enter. The fire was not only above it, it was within. And this fire that burned between the cherubim on the cover of the ark was the same fire that burned in the bush and did not burn out. It was no ordinary fire. It was a presence. And when the glory descended, the wheels moved because God is coming. And when God is coming, death always moves alongside, not as a hostile force, but as the depth of his majesty. And in this movement is the one who is never named, the one who does not stop the heart, but takes it in his hands, like a grain that must fall to bear fruit. When the sons of Korah rose up against Moses, the earth opened its mouth. When Nadab and Abihu brought strange fire, the flame of the Lord came out and consumed them. And this was not anger, this was holiness. For he who touches the holy presence with carnal intent is coming into contact with the boundary of being. In all these moments, the one who was not seen was at work. The hidden angel was there, not as an executioner, but as a boundary. For every boundary is his place of abode. He does not command, he executes. And when the glory descends into the camp, he stands at the entrance, guarding the boundary, holding the balance between the visible and the invisible. Therefore, when the throne of God goes, it does not go alone. It has wheels, fire, cherubim, and shadow. For the presence of glory is not only a voice and light, but also a weight. It cannot be carried without purification. And therefore the deaths in the wilderness were not punishments, but the consequences of approaching. For the closer the fire is, the more that which is not purified burns. And he who keeps the boundary between the unclean and the holy is the same who goes with the throne. His wings do not make a noise, but their movement is a trembling. Their sound is a silence in which the fear of God is revealed. And when the cloud moved, the people went. And when the cloud stopped, the camp stopped. And in each of these movements there is one who does not stop. His presence is like the laws of the harvest. What is sown shall be reaped. He does not tear out life, but takes it. And when the elders fell dead in the camp, their souls did not perish in the abyss. They passed through the fire that purifies and separates. And in this passage, wings that do not touch the earth, but keep the direction to the throne. This was not the end. This was a transition. And so, in all the movement of Israel, from Egypt to Mount Sinai, for the tabernacle to the temple, there was one constant companion, fire. And in this fire, a wheel. In the heart of the wheel, an eye. And in the shadow of the eye, he who is not named. And when Aaron, the high priest, entered the Holy of Holies, he carried blood. But he also carried fear. For if he is not clean, he will die. And if he dies, it will not be an accident. It will be an encounter with the one who holds justice in his hand, but does not punish, only opens the border. For death in the temple is not retribution, but exposure. And whoever carries sin into the holy place, he encounters fire. For God is a consuming fire, Deuteronomy 4 verse 24. But in this consuming is life. For only that which has passed through the flame truly lives. And therefore the hidden angel is not a burner, but a revealer. Thus the story went on, from generation to generation. The fire never went out on the altar. Every morning it lived, every evening it shone. And in that fire is a reminder, God is present. And he who holds the line between flesh and glory stands there. Not at the center of the stage, but by the steps. Not in the ceremony, but in the heart. His wings are like the calm after thunder. His gaze is like the shadow of a cloud. But when the throne moves, he goes first. For he who prepares the way for glory carries the light in the fire. And he who leads the people across the border stands guard over every soul that crosses. And he has been there from the beginning, in every fire, in every wheel, in every movement of the throne. And it came to pass that the throne did not stand still, neither in Jerusalem, nor in the temple, nor in the ark, nor in the promise. For God is not confined to a place, and his glory is like a fire that has no bounds. Even when the walls were built, and the gold shone on the candlesticks, even when the sacrifices were offered daily, the throne did not stand still. For what is the temple but a shadow of what is in heaven? And what is the rite but a repetition of a gesture already made in eternity? The people thought that God had settled down, but he was walking amidst the fire, among the cherubim, among the wheels. The throne hovered over history, sometimes touching human earth, sometimes heavenly glory. And always, in that movement, there was the one who was unseen but who was always there. The glory left the temple before it was destroyed. Ezekiel saw it, the cherubim rising, the wheels rising, the throne being lifted up, and a voice like the sound of many waters resounding over the empty altar. It was not anger, it was movement, for the glory does not disappear, it goes. And when it goes, the one who goes with it performs a silent service. He does not prophesy, he does not burn, he does not punish, he prepares. For every departure of God's presence is also a promise of return. And on the threshold of this departure he stands, the hidden angel of death, not as fear, but as a sign, not as a sting, but as a boundary. For in the glory of God, death is a part of glory, not the opposite. When the wheels turn, time comes into motion, and what was closed becomes open. What was immobile is moved. And when the people do not listen to the prophets, when the heart becomes stone, and the sacrifice an empty ritual, then glory moves. And in this movement there is not silence, but lightning. Not peace, but the roaring of waters. And he who stands in the midst of this noise brings completion. For what was not purified by fire voluntarily will meet the fire finally. And in this fire there is not vengeance, but truth. For the throne knows no deceit. The songs of Israel sang of a throne that stands forever. But the Psalms themselves showed that the throne was moving. Clouds and darkness are round about him. Righteousness and judgment are the foundation of his throne. Psalm 97 verse 2. Even in praise there is movement. Even in worship there is thunder. And when the strings were struck, when the Levites sang, somewhere deep down there was another sound, the sound of wings. A sound that cannot be expressed in a note. It did not break the harmony, it deepened it. For all true worship knows the shadow of death. It knows that before the light there must be darkness. And he who sings of the throne sings also of him who holds its shadow. For it is not the angels of light who bring glory themselves. With them always goes the silent one, he who has no face. His face does not shine, it is closed. But when the throne approaches, when glory enters a new era, he is the first to enter the city, not to destroy, but to close that which no longer bears life. His presence is like a breath between the pages, like the silence between the chapters, like the night before a new dawn. And when the gates of the old temple were closed, he was the last to leave. His footsteps are not heard because they are in the heart, but after them everything becomes different. The history of God's people is a history of movement, from Egypt to the desert, from the desert to the promise, from the promise to exile. But the throne did not leave. He walked, and always, when a new beginning was made, the hidden one stood in the fire. As in every sacrifice there is smoke, so in every movement of glory there is the trace of his wings. He has no name, because his name is service. He has no place because his place is on the border. He has no voice because movement speaks. And when movement speaks, the word becomes fire. Thus ended one testament, not by death, but by purification, not by destruction, but by the revelation of that which is to come. For every shadow points to the source of light, and every angel that hides testifies of the Son that will be revealed. And when the image no longer sits on the throne, but he who is the Word is born, then the hidden angel steps back. He does not disappear, but stands, preparing a place. For the glory will now come not in the temple, but in the body, and the wheel will turn again. In this turning, all the old will pass away, and all the new will be born, but not without a shadow, not without a limit. And where the limit is, there he is, the last witness of the Old Testament, the last one who held the fire before the light of the world was born. His wings are folded, his wheels are slowing down, but they do not disappear, for there will still be movement, there will still be thunder, there will still be a word that will become flesh. And then the hidden one will come out of the shadows, not as the end, but as the herald of the completion. For even death will be swallowed up in glory. In the beginning there was not light, but sound, not form, but vibration. And God said, and light became. The word is not just speech, but the movement of the Spirit through space. And this movement is always with sound, not always with a voice, but always with a wave that passes through everything that has being. In how many places does the Scripture mention sound? Like a roar, like a crack, like a whisper, like the roar of many waters. For God speaks not only with the mouth of the prophet, but also with the wings of the seraphim, the wheels of the throne, the thunders that tear the sky apart. And in all this, it is not just a message. It is a presence. The glory of God never comes in silence. And when it is silent, it is also a language that the soul hears. I heard the sound of their wings like the sound of many waters, like the voice of the Almighty when they go. Ezekiel 1 verse 24. It was not just the sound of flight. It was a code of presence, a power that came not in form, but in the envelope of a hum, where each drop is a separate note, and altogether is a symphony of glory. For when the throne comes, not only the eyes must see, the ears must tremble. And this sound is not like a human noise, but like the blurring of the boundary between heaven and earth. As when Moses stood by the mountain, and the thunder was not before the storm, but inside the fire. And in that fire, not fire but God. And there too sound. Lightning splits the sky, and then thunder, like a word that passes from the Father's heart into reality. And this sound is always a harbinger of movement. When the cloud moves, the people hear. When the wings fly away, the people fall prostrate. For there is power in sound. And where there is power, there is the fear of God. And where there is fear, there is presence. And where there is presence, there is also a boundary. And on the boundary stands the one who does not speak, but who is the sound. The one who is not seen, but whose rustling is the harbinger of transition. This is the hidden angel of death, who is not recognized by his face, but is recognized by the silence after the noise. For what is death but the end of sound, not of bodies, but of words? And when the last name is spoken, when the echo fades, he comes, not as a reaper, but as one who gathers the echo. And in the moment when all sounds are still, when voices are still, and breathing stops, then is the loudest heard. Then is God heard. And in that voice, death is also present, not as an enemy, but as the last note. For every hymn of glory must have a final chord. And the one who sings, it is the one we call the hidden one. When God speaks, everything trembles. The mountains smoke, the waters part, the sky bends. But when God is silent, he trembles even more. For silence is also speech. And in silence is a depth that has no shores. And the one who carries this silence like a cup is an angel. The one who stands at the throne when the voices have already fallen silent. For he does not come to those who are still speaking. He comes to silence. And when the soul is still, when the flesh no longer cries, when a tear has fallen and not broken on the ground. Then he stands nearby. His wings make no noise, because space itself is already filled with his shadow. It was he who heard the cry of Abel rising from the ground. It was he who stood when Abraham raised the knife. It was he who was by the river when Israel passed through the waters. Not as an active being, but as eyes, as a presence, as a sound that is before the word comes. He is the shadow of every prophetic cry. And when Jonah cried in the belly of the fish, his cry was not lost, for the shadow was already waiting for his conversion. The sound of wings touching is like a reminder of the cherubim who do not sleep. The sound of wheels turning is like the rhythm of history. The sound of thunder is like God's answer to the cry of creation. But among them there's another sound, elusive, subtle, almost disappeared. This is the sound of the steps of an angel who does not touch the ground. This is the sound of death that brings not cold, but light. And whoever hears this sound knows the time of transition is coming. For when the throne approaches, it does not come alone. With it is a roar. With it is a word. With it are wings. With it is a boundary. And in every story, in every prophecy, in every psalm, there is this sound. Out of the silence it arises, and again it disappears into the silence. But the soul that has learned to hear recognizes it. For it is not the sound of fear. It is the sound of completion. Like the last chord in a symphony, like the appearance of light after a storm, is the sound of a wing carrying the soul through the veil. And behind this wing is a throne, and behind the throne is fire, and in this fire is the name. And near the name is the one who does not pronounce it, but knows it. For the hidden angel of death knows the name of everyone. And when the time comes, he pronounces it not with a voice, but with a touch. And this touch sounds louder than thunder. This is how God works. This is how glory speaks. This is how the silence serves. And in this movement, a new sound, a new word, a new light. For every end is a place where God begins again. And in that beginning again sound. And in that sound again presence. And in presence again wings. And in the shadow of wings again the one whom we do not see, but without whom night does not begin and dawn does not come. There are signs that God leaves at the border, not on the sands of time, where the winds of events will wash them away, but on the arch of heaven that connects the beginning and the end. The rainbow is not just beauty after storm. It is a covenant, not a decoration of the sky, but a memory of the word that God gave when the earth was washed away by anger, but not drowned by hope. I do set my rainbow in the cloud, and it shall be for a sign of the covenant between me and the earth. Genesis 9, verse 13. And in every color, in every ray, there is not only mercy, but also a reminder. For he who makes a covenant has the power to break it. But God is not a man. He does not reject what he has consecrated. And so the rainbow is not a guarantee against death, but a sign that death is now under God's dominion. When the prophets saw the glory, the rainbow stood over the throne. Ezekiel saw it as the appearance of the rainbow that is in the cloud in the day of rain, even the appearance of the glory of the Lord. Ezekiel 1, verse 28. And in that appearance, in the soft light above the terrible storm, there was not reassurance, it was warning. For where the rainbow appears, there has been a storm, and he who stands under it stands after purification. And beyond that arch is not just light, but a boundary. And there on that boundary is the one who guards it. The hidden angel of death is not outside the covenant. He is within it, like fire in the heart of a cloud, like shadow in a ray. For even mercy has its weight, and even a promise needs a guardian. And when the throne moves under the rainbow, it is not only a movement of glory, but also a movement of justice. Therefore, when the arch appears in the sky, the world must remember, this world is saved, but not for free. And in the silence that resounds after the storm, the angel of death brings not the end, but the seal, the confirmation of God's word. Next to the rainbow is lightning. It is not a sign of peace. It is a voice. As the eyes see light, so the soul trembles from the impact of power. Lightning is a word that does not need interpretation. It is a moment in which something is revealed, not to the eye, but to the spirit. When God descended to Mount Sinai, there were lightnings, and all the people trembled. It was not an explosion of the elements. It was the movement of God. And in that lightning there was not destruction, but separation. Holy from unholy, light from darkness, life from death. And he who stands in the center of the lightning sees everything. But lightning is not alone. It always comes with thunder. Thunder is not an echo. It is confirmation. It is like the amen of heaven to the word of the Father. And when thunder resounds, not only the air trembles, all creation trembles. For this is not human speech. It is the voice of many waters. It is the roar of heaven. It is the glory that speaks. And when God is silent, thunder falls silent. But when he speaks, thunder is his first interpreter. And in this voice is the one who does not speak, but is present. For he who understands the power of sound also knows the silence that follows it. The hidden angel of death stands in the gap between lightning and thunder, like a shadow between dawn and day, like a gap between a word and its fulfillment. When God speaks, he goes, not as a bearer of an order, but as a seal. His steps are the silence after thunder. His action is the balance after light. He does not break harmony, he completes it. And when the thunder has already echoed, when the lightning has faded from the eyes, he brings silence. And in this silence there is not emptiness, but fulfillment. For every word of God must come to an end. And this end is not a stop, it is fullness. The rainbow is mentioned again in the book of Revelation. And I saw another strong angel coming down from heaven, wrapped in a cloud, and a rainbow was upon his head. Revelation 10 verse 1. He held a book in his hand, and when he cried, the seven thunders uttered their voices. And again the thunder, and again the bow, but now not as a sign of the past flood, but as a curtain before the last word. And in this thunder, in this book, in this lightning, stands the same one. He is not named among the angels, but he acts, not in words, but in symbols. And every symbol is an echo of his presence. Rainbow, lightning, thunder are not just images. They are codes. They are an entrance into the language that glory speaks. And in this language is the hidden one. His word is not take, but make. His action is not pluck, but uncover. And when a person encounters a rainbow, he encounters mercy that has no end. When he hears thunder, he hears a reminder of power. When he sees lightning, he sees direction. But when he sees nothing but feels a thrill in his heart, then he is closer to him than ever. For he does not appear to the eye. He is not visible, but he is present in symbols. And when the world sees the last rainbow, when the last thunder rumbles, and when lightning cuts through time for the last time, then he will appear, not as an enemy, not as the end, but as the executor of the last word, as the one who held the boundary from the very beginning, as the shadow of the hand of God, carrying the final touch. God is not static. His throne is in motion. It is not the comfortable throne of a king who rules from afar, not a place of stillness or frozen majesty. It is a fiery structure surrounded by creatures, wings, and wheels that go where the Spirit goes. Wherever the Spirit went, they went, and the wheels rose up with them. Ezekiel 1 verse 20. This is not a poetic metaphor. It is an image of real, spiritual, fiery movement. The throne of God is the heart of history, pulsating with fire, the sound of wings, and the turning of wheels. And these wheels are not dead mechanisms. They have eyes. They have will. They have understanding. And at their center is direction. Wheels are not just symbols of movement. They are the basis of everything. Time, events, nations, generations. Everything revolves like them. They are the essence of providence. They are the pattern of history. In each revolution, there is a beginning and an end, death and life, glory and judgment. Their movement is not chaotic. It has a purpose, and it never stops. And whoever stands in the axis of this movement sees not only the future, but also the goal. It is there in the center of the wheel, that one who knows when the revolution must stop. There is the silent witness the invisible mover. There is the hidden angel of death. He does not turn the wheel, but he knows when it will stop. He is not the source of power, but its conductor. And when the rotation reaches its limit, he does not put down his hand. He himself becomes that limit. The wheels go as long as time must last. But time is not eternal. And he who knows the last turn is not a prophet, not a king, not a sage. He is the one who is not named. He whose shadow is longer than the ray, because it carries the completion. For every cycle has a limit, and beyond every limit is he. When God is silent, people tremble. For silence is more terrible than thunder. For silence is when glory has already come, but the word has not yet come. In this emptiness is the greatest presence. And it is here that the one who does not speak works. For the angel of death does not need speech. His speech is movement. His touch is silence. And when the Levites fall silent in the temple, when the sky does not respond, when the prophets no longer see and the kings no longer hear, then he acts, not as a sentence, but as a harvest, not as an executioner, but as a messenger of silence. The silence of God is always an invitation, and at the same time a test. For he who hears only the loud does not recognize the truth in the void. And he who does not hear in the silence does not know the glory. And he who helps to complete the period of God's silence is the one we call the hidden one. For in every pause between words, in every gap between promise and fulfillment, he stands not as a stop, but as a fullness. His presence is silent, but undeniable. And when the last word of the prophet is spoken, he stands by. And when the scroll is rolled up, he accepts it. And when the curtain is closed, he puts his hand on the threshold. In the center of the wheel is an eye, and it is not just a symbol of observation. It is a sign of distinction. He who sees all knows when time ends, and he who stands in the center of the eye knows the names of those who must pass. For the passage is not an accident. It is a coordinated movement, and the hidden angel is not a signal of death, but a coordinator of the passage, not the personification of horror, but a saint in service. His silence is not emptiness. It is a space where the last call echoes. His step is not an attack, but an accompaniment. Just as wheels move in all directions without turning, so he acts in time without time, in directions without displacement. For his mission is not local, but universal, from the first revolution to the last, from the first breath to the last. And all history is not just a path to glory, but a path through it. For every approach to the throne is also an approach to the shadow of the throne. And in the shadow is he, not because he is the Lord of darkness, but because he is the proof of light. When the times are over, when the wheels slow down and the throne prepares to descend, he stands before it, silently, without a cry, without movement. But in his stillness is all the tension of fire. In his silence is all the glory of the throne. For every action, every prophet, every thunder, every lightning, every rainbow leads to him. And every word of God is completed in him. And every silence of God is heard through him. Therefore, the hidden angel of death is not crossed out of glory, but inscribed in its very logic. For without completion there is no beginning. Without gathering there is no sowing. Without transition there is no glory. And when all that must be said is said, and all that must be done is done, he folds his wings. Not as one who is tired, but as one who knows the wheel has turned, and now there is a new movement, and with it a new light. But he will be there, in the shadow of this light. For even in eternity there is a limit, and even in glory there is silence. And even in life there is a place for the one who was from the beginning. In the fullness of time, when the wheels again drew near to the world, and the throne of God moved not from heaven to a mountain, but into the womb of a woman, the Word became flesh. This was not a beginning, but a fulfillment. Not the first movement, but the last chord of an old melody, which was now passing into a new tune. For the Word, who was once light, was now flesh. And the glory, who was once fire, now beat in the heart of the child. The throne descended, not in a storm, but in the silence of the manger. not in thunder, but in the night air of Bethlehem. But the presence did not diminish. It only changed form. And when the Son of Man was born, not only life, but also death entered the world with him, like a shadow that cannot but follow the light. For he who is born must die. But he who was born this time came to die, so that others might be born. In his body was not only the beginning of a new creation. In his steps the crunch of dry wood was already heard. In his voice the silence of Golgotha was already present. And as he walked among the people, touching lepers, healing the blind, raising the dead, the hidden angel walked beside him, silently, not as a threat, but as an executor. For Christ did not avoid death. He met it, and the hidden angel did not resist him. He submitted, for the first time death had no power. The Garden of Gethsemane is the heart of this clash. There, in the night when his friends were asleep and the sky was silent, Christ prayed, and his sweat was as drops of blood. And there was he who came to him, not from heaven, not with harps, not with a host of lights, but in the silence of the anointed. He who is not seen, but who always comes, the hidden angel of death. And this time, not as a messenger of fear, but as one who came to take away the life that was voluntarily given. And he, the Son, said, "Thy will be done." And death bowed down. On Calvary, when the sky darkened, and the earth trembled, and the veil of the temple was torn, there was a throne, not of gold, of wood, and above him was an inscription, "The King of the Jews." And the wheels carried this throne, not through the air, but through pain, through screams, through blood. And there, on the cross, was glory, not the kind that shines, the kind that flows, not the kind that sparkles, the kind that forgives. And at that moment, the hidden angel did not turn away. He stood before the face of the one who said, "It is finished." And when he died, death did not conquer. It fulfilled. For now death is not the end, but service. And at that moment, the hidden angel of death ceased to be only a shadow. He became a witness. His wings touched the cross, not to pluck the soul, but to lift it up. For he who died entered death as a king. And where the king enters, there is no more darkness. There everything obeys him. And the angel of death no longer carries terror. He carries a command. For from that time on, death has become only a door. And the door is opened by the one who stands on the other side. In the gospel, death has not disappeared, but it has lost its sting. For whoever is in Christ is not afraid of the limit. And the hidden angel is not banished. He now stands as a minister of the New Testament. And when Stephen saw heaven opened and the Son of Man at the right hand of the Father, he saw not only the glory to come, he saw the throne walking again. And next to the throne is the same escort. For the throne in Christ has not lost its mobility. It as before goes to people, but now, through the Spirit. And the hidden one has not disappeared. Now he stands at every transition, as a witness that death no longer has the power to separate, only to complete. The church is a people who are no longer afraid of the shadow, for their shepherd walks through the valley of the shadow of death with them. And when they cross over, they do not go into emptiness. They go into glory. And the hidden angel is not left without service. Now he does not close. He opens. He does not take away, but leads. For every death in Christ is an entrance. And in this entrance, there is silence again. And in this silence, there is the sound of wings again. But now these wings do not bring fear. They bring peace. In the New Testament, death has not become less. But in each of them, there has been more light. And the throne has not stopped. It is still going. But now, not in a storm, but in the gospel. And the wheels have not gone out. They turn in every conversion, in every baptism, in every forgiveness. And the hidden angel stands by everyone. He is no longer a stranger, but not a saint in the traditional sense either. He remains behind the scenes, but no longer hides. For his ministry has become brighter. Now he is a servant of the light that has passed through death and has not gone out. Thus he who was a shadow in the Old Testament became a transition in the New, not as a change of role, but as the completion of a purpose. And the wheels that once carried the throne in glory and wrath now carry it in mercy and victory. And the lightning that once punished now lights the way, and the thunder that frightened now sings. And the hidden angel, who was mute, is now silent, but no longer as terror, but as peace. For Christ is risen, and in his resurrection death has lost its kingdom. But the minister remains, for even in eternity, someone must hold the door open. And I saw, writes John, exiled to an island, a great white throne, and him who sat on it. And the earth and the heaven fled away from his face, and there was found no place for them. Revelation 20 verse 11. This was no ordinary vision. This was the end of all visions. For the throne no longer rose above a people or a city. It was above everything, above time, above matter, above everything that had ever existed. And if the throne had come down with the prophets, here it had finally descended. The wheels stopped, the thunder ceased, the wings folded, and a silence fell, so deep that even the sky did not breathe. This was the last limit, and on this limit he stood, the hidden angel of death. John saw another angel, a mighty one, clothed with a cloud, and a rainbow was upon his head, and his face was as the sun, and his feet as pillars of fire. He had in his hand a little book open, and when he cried, the seven thunders uttered their voices. But when John was about to write, a voice from heaven said, "Write not this." This was a language not intended for human lips. This was the language of the end. And when the angel lifted up his hand to heaven and swore by him who lives forever and ever, time shall be no longer, Revelation 10 verse 6. It was not prophecy. It was the final word. And this word was followed by one who fulfills it. He does not declare, he does not interpret, but fulfills. This was the hidden one. For when words end, when even prophecies fall silent, then movement begins. And this last movement is not like the previous ones. It is not a transition within history, but the winding up of history as such. And so death, which seemed defeated, reappears, not as a power, but as a door that closes behind the last of those who enter. And who stands at this door? Not an apostle, not a prophet, not a martyr, but one who has always stood on the edge. And if in the Old Testament he served in the shadow, and in the New in the transition, here in the fulfillment, his presence no longer needs to be hidden. It is the completion of the throne. And I saw books, and another book, the book of life. And the dead, great and small, stood before the throne. And they were judged, each according to their works. It was a judgment, but not an angry one. It was a calm, clear division of light and darkness, truth and error, life and the second death. And even the sea gave up its dead, and even death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. For death is not eternal, but before it is destroyed, it must still serve. And its minister, the one we called the hidden angel of death, is fulfilling the last mission. He does not condemn, but when the name is not found in the book of life, he lays his hand, not to execute, to seal. For the truth must be fulfilled. His step is the last in time. His wings are the last to flap. His sound is the last before eternal silence. He brings fulfillment, not threat. And in him is the last breath of a limited world. For when he has made the last turn of the wheel, there will be no more turning. There will be only standing before the face. And then the new Jerusalem. And in it there is no temple, and there is no death. There are no tears. There is no weeping. For the first has passed, and he who accompanied the first folds his wings. His service is finished. He is no longer needed, but not rejected. He is remembered not as fear, but as the messenger of the boundary through which it was possible to pass. And he who has passed knows that death was only a shadow, and the shadow is only a proof of light. The revelation ends not with a punishment, but with a wedding, not with a catastrophe, but with the coming of the bride. And with this coming there is no more thunder. There is a song, and the hidden one, who once stood in the shadow, now hides in the light. Not because he has disappeared, but because now he is all light. His shadow has no place to stand. He has not disappeared in the fire. He has become part of the world. For even death, when it has fulfilled its mission, enters into peace. All the symbols converge in one name, the name that the prophets could not pronounce, that was closed from the eyes of Ezekiel, wrapped in clouds over Sinai, hidden behind the wings of the cherubim, wrapped in the flames of the wheels. Now it is revealed. The name is Jesus, not only the name of a man, the name of God who came down, the Word who became flesh, the throne who became the cross, the fire who entered the flesh, the rainbow who bent over Gethsemane, the thunder who was silent for 3 days. And now, when all is done, the world stands before this name, and the heaven does not flee, and the earth does not hide. For everything is in him. In him are the wheels that turned in Ezekiel. In him is the throne that judged in Daniel. In him is the light that does not go out, and death that is already defeated. The hidden angel of death stands aside. His ministry is ended, not because death has disappeared, but because its meaning has changed. For when Christ entered death and came out, not as a victim, but as a master, death lost its autonomy. It is no longer the master of boundaries. It is a servant, and the hidden angel no longer stands on the threshold with authority, but with obedience. He knows that the last word is not his. The name now speaks louder than all thunder. The glory shines brighter than all lightning, and the throne is no longer raised in heaven. It descends into the heart, and every heart that receives him becomes a place of glory. Therefore, today when the word sounds, do not close your heart, for the throne is still moving. Not on earth, in the spirit. The wheels are still turning. Not in heaven, in the history of your life. And the hidden angel is still watching, not as a terror, but as a memory, as the voice of conscience, as the one who has become the messenger of time. He does not touch you if you hide in the one who is stronger. For only in Jesus does death lose its power, and only in Jesus does life find eternity. You have heard of the fire, but have you let it into your heart? You have seen the wheel of history, but have you seen its purpose? You have heard the thunder, but have you recognized the Father's voice in it? Today is not only a day of revelation. Today is a day of repentance. For when the word ends, when the wheels slow down, when the wings are silent and silence covers the earth, he comes. And not all will be ready, but those who know the name will lift up their eyes. For they know his throne holds mercy, and even death, which stood between them and the Father, now stands behind them, like a shadow that has lost its fear. This is the day of salvation, not a day of fear. For Christ stands with the keys of hell and death, not hidden but revealed, not silent, but he who says, I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. Revelation 22, verse 13. And when he speaks, even the silence of death turns to song. And when he goes, even the angel of death bows. For the light that could not be approached has now entered us, and the shadow that once guarded the boundary now stands in the light, knowing that its mission is accomplished. So enter, not with fear, with repentance, not with trembling, with faith. For all that was hidden is revealed. The name is spoken. The glory has come down. The wheels have stopped, and the hidden one is now a witness bowing before the Son. And he who is in the Son passes by death, not touching it. For death is now not the end, but a transition. And on this side of the transition is life, without shadow, without limit, without end.